Hello everyone and welcome back for week 7, 7th week of English 1510 Comp 1 in the online asynchronous course at OCC, English 12A1217. Couple of quick things to go over for week 7 overview. I left the additional comments on flag files on here from last week. I left that commentary there. I'll leave it up for this week's on the announcements on this, and then hopefully we have a clear enough understanding here of what's going on and not to sidestep any of those policies or violate that protocol. Number of students, I had a couple of things with memoir summary outlines. I mentioned before there wasn't really much that I could do to differentiate between what dates I was dealing with different files. Currently, I'm still dealing with a few more cases that are online only students. And in addressing that, I left this memoir final draft date, I left that open till Wednesday. I primarily have this on here as noted on this, where week 6 and 7 on this for the memoir final draft. I moved that on here. Extensions primarily for students whose summary and outline feedback was delayed. And a couple of where I still had to republish some of the stuff yesterday, Saturday, and then I think I have one more today that was not delayed, but there were some things with your files that I had to address. But anyways, I left that for Wednesday in the final draft just to make sure that I got something on there for you on those. Just note on this, guys, once final drafts are reviewed, that Dropbox will open up for a rewrite. And regardless of what feedback you were or were not dealing with, you'll have the opportunity to do a rewrite of the final draft as well, just like with the diagnostic, but that'll be the last one for the term. So on the 6th week, the announcement on that outline and then the rhetorical analysis discussion board. So this week for week 7, the readings for all editions of the book, you're reading the chapter titled Research Papers. It is one chapter off. It's one chapter difference or from 2nd edition, 3rd and 4th. So titled Research Papers, read that chapter. And the note after this, in week 8, it has review week listed on here, and it says TBA. I am going to post some recommended chapters that I think you guys would find helpful to review, and maybe a few different pages based off of some of the discussion I've had with some students on some of the things. But 8th week should be a week where you're able to do some catch up if you haven't done any. This is also the first week that we're instituting some videos that are required. So that's going to be going over these in the content file. If you go to your content file in D2L and over on the left hand side, there are these different videos that are posted here for this. I slightly adjusted which ones you're watching which week. The first week on here, it's getting to know your library and web search versus research, and then how to find articles and MLA citations would be the next week. But the main thing on here is this is as we're moving towards the research coming up. You guys, this week, you're finalizing rhetorical analysis, summary outline, and then working on the drafting stage. And you note here that the Dropbox for the summary outline due this evening, and then memoir final draft, but then the rhetorical analysis discussion board, that's open until the 29th. That gives you guys, today is the 18th, that gives everyone in the class, every single person in the class, it gives everybody all of this week and through next to finish up doing a rough draft of these, posting a discussion board, engaging with classmates and doing a review of one another's, at least one classmates. And then the week after, that's on the 7th week on here, the start, technically due by the 29th there, and then the rough draft due by the 31st. Remember, guys, these only work well if you're engaging with this and giving a classmate feedback and reciprocating back and forth between, with each other and making commentary. I went through and double checked to make sure everything was open in the discussion board and lasted and stayed open until the 29th of March. So there shouldn't be any confusion. I also won't be adjusting that this time. Rhetorical analysis discussion board, and then the upcoming rhetorical analysis rough draft. So this week there is nothing that gets submitted this weekend. You're just going to be submitting this evening's summary and outlines. Make sure that you've read everything over in the Dropbox for these. I also updated a file here where in this Dropbox, because for some students it wasn't enough for me to, or it still caused a little bit of confusion, that you go through these instructions, and down at the bottom here I have files again that are listed here, the rubric, summary, outline, template, and then a student sample paper. This was not anything here on the charting devices. This wasn't anything that had to be done and submitted to me. This was if you were going to go through and watch these sample videos, the awareness campaign, and read what the student had done on those ones, and also the director, what her intention behind that was. This was if you were learning to chart devices off of there and needed something like that for your own exercise. I kept the old student paper on here, but some students, I mentioned last week that this is a very good paper. There's still a couple of flaws in it. I left it as is of the student's submission. There was still a second person usage in there. And as I said before, the intro was pretty long. No one had to meet that type of criteria. So what I did was I edited it down a little bit and revised it and included a new version of it here with a shorter intro that meets all the basic content criteria. Now, this shortened it up quite a bit. It cut that intro in half. And what I did here was, after that one, I included another version of it that follows it with those components then labeled. So general statement, specific, your topic, and thesis. So you can see this again in the layout with this. And then just one at the start of the topic sentence for body one. Again, this was not a flawless paper, but it was a very, very good one that covered all the bases and then some. So I included here with the breakdown and labeling and things, so students might find that useful before finalizing, going through and drafting stage this next week or two. So that, and I also wanted to just remind you guys on this piece that's due this evening, when we're looking at these, don't cut anything off of this template. The only thing you're doing is removing examples. So for instance, in your general statement here, you're removing that and then writing your own. If you just did what I just did there, this is all pre-formatted. The font and size, the style and size should remain the same. Shouldn't be anything that gets adjusted there. All these things have all been preset, that none of that gets changed. All you're doing is removing the examples and writing your pieces in there. Do not delete the intro content, and do not submit these without these completed. I had a couple of students on the last one didn't fill out any of this or cut it off entirely and made your own outlines. Remember, red flag for us, if we give you a template like this and you start submitting something of your own design, very good indication that there's something going on there that's outside the parameters of what's allowed for the class. So the piece that you guys should be submitting tonight, this should be the title. You put your title of your commercial here, the link on YouTube. And again, I had a couple of questions about whether or not you could use other sources. No, I need it from YouTube, and I want it to be directly from the people that produced and made the commercial. This isn't difficult to find. If you had something that doesn't meet these parameters, then pick a different ad. There are a number of people that modify, change, adjust. They make fakes of other commercials with different songs and different wording and different intention behind it. We don't want to get in the area of any of those things. You're going to find the ad that's provided for you by the actual producers, either the company that is advertising itself, or it's fine to have them posted by the NFL if they were Super Bowl ads or what have you, as long as the source there is legitimate and they have authority to be posting those, right? So in the summary on this, you're writing a 200-word summary, general to specific intro, ending in the thesis. On here, this is not a lead-in thesis. This is a thesis statement with explicit details about the rhetorical devices. Your thesis should name the rhetorical devices that are present in the ad that you're going to analyze. Everybody should have you know, you're looking at this, most of the ads will have 3, 4, 5. Stick with 3. Give me the 3 primaries on this. These on here, some of the primary ones that are pretty common: imagery, voiceover, narration, and music. The student sample paper has imagery, repetition, and music, right? Repetition is the use of that ad that's on that example one, constantly saying "I love you" over and over and over on there. And then on the bodies, remember, remove this topic sentence, write your own. Do not simply use this one here, including captions on this. Write your own. In the body paragraph details, 6 sentences, and this is the way I want you guys approaching this, as I said last week. Major supports, give me the example of the device. Minor support, explain what the intended appeal was in each instance. Okay, that should be the minimum we get out of this for the bodies. 3 of those, and then the conclusion. Remember, in the conclusion, it's not just a restatement of thesis and topic content, it's restatement of thesis, and then the analysis, objective, third person, as to whether or not the piece was effective at making its intended appeal to the intended audience. Okay, explain why or why not, concluding analysis. So, that is what is coming up this week here for the week 7. As I said, I left this announcement here on additional comments on flagged files. I've worked with a number of students who had these issues pop up. So far, as I mentioned before, 100% of the situations with these have all been, confirmed to be ChatGPT, Quillbot, Grammarly, plus all these other things with generative AI. There is no excuse and there is no leeway on these. You cannot use those things. Not in writing classes, not in reading comprehension, not in your humanities, any of that. If you have a course that they're going to allow that, they're going to tell you specifically that you can use those. All right, so the weeks ahead, the last thing I wanted to point out here for you guys is on these ones, these things are the things due this week. Upcoming is the rough draft on the 31st. Then in the weeks ahead on this, we're going to start having some overlap on this. Next week on the 8th week, you got these videos you'll watch. The additions on here, the reading for the week, I will announce some review things that I recommend. Discussion board should be completed, rough draft completed, and then the upcoming note on overlap submissions. You're going to have the research pieces that start coming in, and these two are basically just preliminary outline pieces. The summary with working thesis, if it's done correctly, it's essentially going to be your intro paragraph, most of your intro paragraph with the thesis, and then the primary points of support with the works cited. Those are going to be your topic sentences in your preliminary works cited page. The works cited page might remain the same, it might not, but this is going to be due on the Sunday, Monday, and then the rhetorical analysis final draft that we will have already concluded from these prior weeks. That will be due on Tuesday the 9th. That will make sure everybody's had time to review the peer review from a classmate and had their feedback on summary outline from me before submitting those. Week 9, it's going to start being the overlapping of submissions. The summary working thesis, you guys will have pick topics. This week too, you'll also see posting in week 9 in this entire area here. The reading is all going to become peer-reviewed articles that are posted in the D2L OCC databases. I will put some initial ones up here. I will also have the Dropbox open for you guys to select topics, and I will have some examples on this where it says TBP. On this, TBNA is announced. It means which ones I'm going to have you guys suggest here. TBP is to be posted. I'm going to be posting some peer-reviewed articles here. At least one per category. I have 4 or 5 research topics for you guys to pick from this semester, and I will post at least one article per week, article or research report on that topic that's from the database. That's a peer review, full text available article, so you can read those and see examples every week of what you're looking at, including how to analyze and break down that research. So the readings after this will all be you conducting your own individual research, and everyone, as it states here with the primary points of support, your works cited page is going to have 10 minimum sources of peer-reviewed, full-text available online sources from OCC databases only. All right, so those are in the weeks ahead. We'll have some overlap there. Hopefully there are no more hiccups on any of these things, guys. Just keep your eye on the postings of the submission dates and timelines, and everybody keep at it. All right, see you next week.